Robin Hood and the Bishop. Part 1. The Bishop of Hereford was very angry with Robin Hood for Alan-a-Dale's wedding. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Robin, but no one did. The wicked people were all afraid of Robin and his brave men. The people who were kind and good loved him. One day the bishop took much money to a monastery. In those days the men who lived in the monasteries were not always good. Sometimes they were very wicked. The bishop had to pass through Sherwood Forest. He gathered his servants and many soldiers. He hoped to kill Robin or to take him prisoner. He hoped most to take him prisoner. He knew his friend, the Sheriff of Nottingham, was Robin's greatest enemy. Sheriff promised to give much money to anyone who takes Robin prisoner. It was a bright sunny day in June when the bishop set out. It was cool and shady under the great trees of the forest. Wild roses and honeysuckle smelled so sweet. Birds sang. The world was full of beauty. Soon the wood was filled with the noise. Many soldiers in shining armor rode along with the bishop in the middle. Robin loved to walk in the forest alone. Suddenly he saw the bishop and his men. They too saw him. One man, however brave, could not fight against all these soldiers. Robin couldn't call his men. They were so far away. Robin knew that they would kill him or take him prisoner. It was a terrible moment. With wild shouts, the bishop and his men ran upon him. There was only one thing to do, and Robin did it. He ran away. Faster and faster he ran, closely followed by the bishop's men. Closer and closer grew the trees, narrower and narrower the pathways. Horses stumbled over the roots. It was a mad hunt. Robin knew every path and secret way in the woods. The trees seemed to hide him and spread out the roots to trip up the horses of the bishop's men. Robin's suit was the color of the leaves, and that helped him. The men found it more and more difficult to run. At last they lost him. He knew the danger was not yet over. In the far part of the wood he came to an old woman's cottage. He often sent presents to this old woman. Robin called out, "Open quickly and let me in." The old woman opened it as fast as she could. "Come in," said the old woman. "Come in quickly. I'm Robin Hood." "If you're really Robin Hood," said she, "I'll do anything to hide you from the bishop and his men. I swear to you, good woman, that I am truly Robin Hood. If you help me, my men and I will never forget it." "I believe you, sir. You have an honest face," answered the old woman. "Where will you hide?" "In your grey dress," said Robin with a laugh. The old woman looked at him in surprise. "In my grey dress?" she said. "Yes," said Robin. "Give me a grey dress and a big white cap. Dressed in them, I can go through the wood. If I meet Bishop and his soldiers, I will look like any old woman. They will never stop to look at me. Then you put on my suit of green. If the bishop follows me here, he will mistake you for me. Let him take you prisoner, and do not be afraid. My men and I will soon be back to rescue you." "Bless your life, sir, how clever you are," said the old woman, laughing. When he was dressed, he gave him a walking stick. When Robin met several of the bishop's men, he bent his back and went slowly along like a very old woman. So he got safely past. It took him a long time to get to his own men. He found it was very difficult to walk in this dress. Little John was looking out for him. Robin waved his stick and shouted, but even his great friend did not know him. "Look at that woman," said Little John to Will Scarlet. "I believe it's a witch. I'll shoot an arrow at her and see." Little John knew that if it was a witch, she could fly away over the trees. He wanted to see her to do it, but Robin cried out, "Stop, Little John, it's Robin Hood." Robin told his tale. Then he said, "Now gather all our men. We must fight the bishop and help this old woman." Very soon Robin, dressed in green, went at the head of his men through the forest. Part 2. The old woman got into Robin's clothes. The bishop arrived. He was sure that Robin could hide in her cottage. The old woman didn't say a word. With Robin's hat down over her face, she stood in a dark corner and waited. They shouted with triumph when they saw the figure in green standing in the corner. The old woman had a good stick. She fought with it. She gave one or two of the bishop's men smacks on the head. Outside she could hear the bishop shouting, "Gently, my man, gently. Take him alive, take him alive." After a little she pretended to give in. They led her out to the bishop. So glad was he to see Robin Hood, as he thought, "Aha, my man," he cried, "we have you at last. Say farewell to your green wood. You will never see it again." The old woman held her head down, but the bishop was so old and blind that he could not tell that it was not Robin. He thought Robin was hanging his head in shame. "Oh, there," he cried, "honor to the Prince of Thieves, the finest horse in the company for the King of Sherwood Forest." "He's so ugly," said one man, looking at the old woman. "As ugly as sin," said others. "Ah, my children," said the bishop, "you see what sin does. This man has a wicked life, and it left its mark on his face." When the old woman heard that, she shook with anger. It was untrue. The bishop thought that Robin was trembling in fear. "Ah, you may well tremble, my man," he said. "The punishment is near." But the old woman never answered. They set off with the old woman on her beautiful white horse, riding beside the bishop. The bishop laughed and sang. He was so glad, but his laughter did not last long. Suddenly they saw men riding. "Who are these?" said the bishop, "and what man is that who leads them?" For the first time the old woman spoke. "I think it is Robin Hood." The bishop stopped and looked at her with a pale face. "Who are you then?" he asked. "Only an old woman, Lord Bishop," she replied. "Lord Bishop," said Robin, taking his hat off, "you gave us the trouble." Then he went to the old woman, lifted her gently to the ground. "Thank you, dame, for your kindness to me," he said. "Robin Hood will never forget it. If you follow Much the miller's son, he will take you to Marion. She is waiting for you." "Thank you," said the old man. The bishop's men did not fight. They saw it useless. Robin and his brave men could easily kill all the bishop's men. Robin helped the bishop to get off his horse. "Now, Lord Bishop, how much money have you?" "The money which I have with me is not mine," replied the bishop. "'Tis true, it's not yours," agreed Robin. "It belongs to the monastery of Saint Mary," said the bishop. "Pardon me, it belongs to the poor people from whom you stole it," said Robin. "Little John, bring the bishop's money bags." Little John brought the bishop's money bags and counted out £500. "Now let him go," said Robin. "Master," said Little John, "may the bishop sing mass before he goes." "You are right," said Robin. "I have today much to thank for. The bishop shall sing mass before he goes." So in the wood Robin and his men, and the bishop and his men, friend and enemy, knelt together side by side, while the bishop sang mass. Then Robin called for the bishop's horse. He led him and his men back to the path through the woods. "Go," he said to the bishop. "Thank God for this day, and your prayers forget not Robin Hood."